ओम सदाशिवसमारंभां शंकराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्परां. See, people talk about one single creator, and they use a worldly logic. If you are using the Shastra Pramana, no problems. But they will give you example of pot and potter, table and carpenter, things like that, to show single creator. Now, when you are talking about the creation, that logic is not applicable, because if you are building a house, you can't build a house by one person. You need carpenters, masons, this, that. So many people you need. Therefore, the theory, the logic of a single creator goes out. Then you need a pantheon of gods. Because how can you have single creator? When a house requires so many multiple creators, how can this whole universe, which is so huge, so vast, have single creator? So if you are going purely by logic, that palace or house example is meant to negate the logic that there is single creator. That's why Ishvara cannot be Nyaya Siddham, established only by logic. Ishvara is established by the Pramana, and you have supporting logic. Does that clarify?
Sorry, I was on mute. So, yeah, I got the point. That is to say that that particular logic will only establish multiple gods are required.
Exactly.
Yeah. But what if someone turns around and say that, the Ishvara is so powerful that all the functions which are conceivable will be handled by one Ishvara himself, because he is so powerful.
What is the proof for it? What is the logic for it? There is no logic for it, no? Then we will say in the world there are examples of powerful beings, but all power is limited. Even a king requires so many people to run the show. Therefore, logically you cannot establish it. You can support the logic of one Ishvara by all this, if the one Ishvara has come from the Pramana.
But we say Sarvagna, Sarvashaktiman, Sarva.
That's from where have you got it? By your logic or from the Shastra?
Shastra.
Then, and the Shastra cannot be illogical also. Like a Shastra cannot say God created the world out of nothing. That's illogical, no? Shastra is beyond logic, but to say the world was created out of nothing is illogical, because the world is made of some things, lots of things actually. So the material also has to be taken into account. Then the material and the intelligence being one and the same, again the Shastra comes into the picture. So purely by logic it cannot be established.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, you can have logic supporting the Shastra, but that logic is understanding logic, not proving logic or supporting logic. The same, Ishvara is not logically established. That's why one of the telling arguments, even in this book by Colonel Jacob, Vedanta Sara by Colonel Jacob, he says that, if there is an God, mankind will never know God unless God reveals himself. I have those who are there in the previous rendition of the Vedanta Sara, I read what Colonel Jacob had talked about, remember? Yeah. He has done a fantastic job. I am very grateful for him because he has published, okay, Vedanta Sara with 2 Sanskrit commentaries. Mainly the Vidwan Manoranjani of Swami Ramatirtha. It's a fantastic commentary on Vedanta Sara. Therefore, and he has got his own notes and this, beautiful, very scholarly work. Yeah. But at the end of the day, he has not understood what Vedanta is about. Because he says that, he says nobody can respect Indian culture and scholarship as much as me. If there was a God that could be found by logic, Indians would have found it. But for all the logic, they came to an impersonal reality, which I find very repugnant to accept. Therefore, I will offer you an alternate. Don't look at the Bible as something separate. Like all great religions, it has come from Asia, because the Bible also came from West Asia. No? So after all the study, he goes back to faith and belief. This is what we call thinking elaborately and concluding wrongly. Pujya Swamiji used to give an old example for this. He says, in our traditional homes, the doorway to enter the house is small. Okay? The house may be huge. The doorway is small. And you will have a step also on it, to mark, to demarcation, the outside and inside. Even Indians have to bow a bit before you go in. The idea is you enter a home with humility. Every home is like a temple. So you enter with humility. Therefore, that's why that ceiling, the door was kept low. So this American who comes to visit an traditional Indian home, nowadays the doors are big for all flats, okay? More than 6 feet. So unless you are over 6 feet, you don't have to bow down. So this American comes to India and he is warned, hey, door is low, please bend down. So he bends down 10 feet ahead only. And exactly as where he is entering, he stands up. And gets a nice bump on the head. This is called thinking elaborately and concluding wrongly. That's why it doesn't work. Because his was a case that is common with most lawyers, most scholars. And especially when during British times they came to study in India, to study Indian literature. They never had the respect and the humility to go and learn from a teacher. They studied Sanskrit and they thought they could do it on their own. And their understanding of Sanskrit also was limited, because the Sanskrit scholar who taught them had very limited knowledge of English. Even if you look at some of the people who have translated Sanskrit works, like Ballantyne and all those people who translated. Good works on grammar they have written. But they don't have respect for the local teachers. In fact, even Panini and Patanjali are talked about as native scholars. Now, to say native scholar is a bit derogatory, or at least it shows lack of respect. What do you mean native scholars? If they use the word traditional scholars, I can understand that. Native means what? You're some tribal or something, or what? We treat the tribals with respect because they have knowledge which we don't have. Knowledge of the forest we don't have, they have. But these scholars use these terms. Therefore, when you're studying a Shastra without humility, not a wonder it doesn't work. Yeah. Anyway, let's go into the text now, okay? This is Vedanta Saraha. Vedanta is the essence of the Upanishad. Vedanta is the essence of the Veda. The crowning glory of the Veda is Vedanta. Tasya Saraha Vedanta Saraha. It's the essence of that. Okay. So this is considered a Prakarana Grantha. A Prakarana Grantha meaning either you will deal with one aspect of Vedanta, like you have a small Prakarana Grantha, Dashasloki, which deals with only the theory of Panchikaranam. Or you will have Vedanta dealing with just the Pramana part of it. Or dealing with the big picture but in very limited manner. So, Prakarana does not always mean a beginner's text. Okay? It means dealing with it from one standpoint. Like Tattva Bodha, you all saw Tattva Bodha. Tattva Bodha can be classified as a beginner's text. But all Prakarana Granthas are not beginner's texts. This is not a beginner's text. Similarly, Vedanta Paribhasha is a Prakarana Grantha because it deals only with the question of Pramanas. How beginners or how advanced it is, you will see when I do that. Okay. It's a little bit difficult to teach online. Therefore, I am waiting when we can start meeting offline for me to start that text. Okay. Not an easy text. Before that, I will have to teach you some Nyaya language, that you get familiar with the language of Nyaya. Logic, Nyaya Vaisheshika. So I'll teach a book called Tarka Sangraha for it. Simple book, small little thing. Beginner's text in Tarka. Well, then you get the language all right. Because Nyayikas use language with with precision. Exactly like how a scientist will use language. In fact, Nyaya Vaisheshika was the forerunners of science in India. They had a whole atomic theory, etc., all that they had. So the atomic theory, etc., was propounded. Minimum 2003 BC. Yeah, that's huge. Yeah. Anyway, that apart. Okay. So now we have the simple text. It's quite a simple text. Little advanced but simple all at the same time. Okay. Called Vedanta Sara. I think all of you have managed to get hold of a book, right? Anyone not having a book? No, I assume all of you have a book then. All right. Then the very first verse, as usual, starts with an invocation. Okay. Because in the Indian tradition, without invoking the Lord, you don't start a single thing. Everything starts by acknowledging Ishvara. Because for any work, any undertaking to be successful, there has to be adequate, appropriate effort. That's very necessary. Adequate, appropriate effort is a must. Because it should be adequate, it should be enough. You can't try it for 2 days and say, no, it's not working. To give it enough time. Adequate. Appropriate also. I want to lose weight. Therefore, cut down your calorie intake, get some exercise, etc. No, but I heard digestion also requires calories, so I'll eat more. Your BMR goes up when you eat more. It is not appropriate for what you want. For adequate work, appropriate work, and you have to give it the time frame necessary. Everything takes time. Nothing is instantaneous. Even instant coffee is not instantaneous. It takes some time to make it, isn't it? You have to boil the water and milk, put the sugar in it, then add the coffee. It takes few minutes, it takes. It's called instant because it's easier than making a decoction of the other coffee, natural coffee, and making it. That takes more time. So time is always a factor. And there is something that we know as luck. There is many a slip between the cup and the lip. So how do you take care of the luck factor? Really speaking, there is nothing called luck. Because we don't know what it is, we call it luck. It's your own karma, karma phala, social karma. Like right now, all of us are stuck in home and thinking, the whole world is going through certain karmas. Can't avoid it. So slowly we have to start breaking it. Slowly by stepping out, cautiously with mask and COVID protocols, etc. We step out and break it. Like how Neeta Ben went all the way to Ahmedabad. Falguni is in Bombay. From Goa she came. So, then she has gone to Surat. So slowly with all the COVID protocols, we start breaking this. Because somewhere or the other it has become more or less normal, no? Like before. With caution, but okay, not wildly. Yeah. That's why even for the camp I said, if cases go up, etc., if I see signs of a third wave, I myself will cancel it. Because we can't take unnecessary risk. At the same time, we cannot be sitting at home in fear. We have to strike a balance between the two. Samatvam yoga muchyate. Balance is yoga. So back to that luck factor. There is always a luck factor in it. So what do you do about the luck factor? Don't say touch wood. You will say a prayer. Their prayer is invoking Ishvara's grace to take care of what is commonly called as luck. And it also helps Ishvararpanam Prasada Buddhi. That prayer actually makes the whole project that you are undertaking as Ishvararpanam. So prayers also can be of various type. Imploring the Lord for something. Okay. Offering your surrender, your namaskaras to the Lord. Revealing the nature of the Lord. There are so many types of prayers. Okay. So let us see what type of prayer is this one that he starts with. The first verse, the invocation verse. Akhandam Sachidanandam Avang Manasagocharam Atmanam Akhiladharam Ashraye Abhishta Siddhaye. Okay. What type of Ishvara I am talking about? Akhandam Sachidanandam. Sachidanandaha. Satyam Jnanam Anantam Yat. Yad Upanishatsu Satyam Jnanam Anantam iti Vikyatam. Tatiha Sachidanandviti Abhichakshate. What is talked about as Satyam Jnanam Anantam Brahman in the Taittiriya Upanishad is talked about here as Sachidanandaha. Sat stand for existence. What existence? Not existence in a particular form, but the underlying existence behind all names and forms. Existence, which is non-different from Jnanam, Chaitanyam, Chit. Chit Sarupaha, the pure consciousness. Satyam is nothing but Satya eva Chit, Chitta eva Sat. What is called as Sat is nothing but Chit, consciousness, and what is Chit, consciousness, is nothing but Sat, existence. What exists is consciousness. Therefore, Satyam Akhandam Anantam. Akhandam, that which cannot be divided. Khandam Nasti. Okay. Yeah. Therefore, Akhandam means Anantam. It means Advaitam actually. Okay. Yeah. Advaitam is what? Technical definition? Remember? So now I'll start questioning, okay? So people remember it. At least by me pointing it out, it'll go in.
Sajatiya, Vijatiya.
Swagata Bheda Rahitam. Correct. No differences in terms of Sajatiya. Same species, there aren't many. There is nothing other than, therefore differences with another species doesn't come in. It's a homogeneous whole, therefore differences of Swajati, Swagatam, in its own, like hands, legs, etc., that type of difference are also not there. Therefore, Sajatiya, Vijatiya, Swagata, Bheda Rahitam, that is Akhandam, Advaitam. Akhandam means Advaitam, because if it is something that it cannot be divided up, how many are there? Only one, and that is limitless. That's limitless, because only one is there, including time, space, everything in it. Therefore, at the same time, you cannot divide time, space, this, that, etc. Unconditioned by that. Akhandam also means unconditioned by time and space. No? Because anything conditioned by time and space can be divided up. This is Akhandam, not divided up. Avang Manasa Gocharam. Agocharam. Okay. That there, Avang, goes away, actually Gocharam. That which is not objectified by the words or the mind. This is what is wrongly translated as that which is beyond the mind, etc. Beyond the mind, how are you going to know it then? It is beyond the mind and body, and where? Somewhere in Timbuktu. No, that doesn't work. That's like telling that kid who comes and asks you, Uncle, where is space? Out there yonder, where the sun and the moon and the stars are there. Okay. When I grow big, I will go in a rocket to see space. Yeah. That is because there was too much of space here in the head of whom? The uncle who said that out yonder. Because he was unidimensional in explaining space. Should have told the kid, it is not only out there, what's there between you and me is space. When you feel hungry, there is space in the stomach. There is space here also, that's why you can learn new things. Yeah. Only then the understanding of space is complete. No? Avang Manasa Gocharam, yes, but Akhandam he has said, therefore not separate from me. Avang Manasa Gocharam he can say because he has already said Akhandam. And already said as Anandam, Anantam, limitlessness. After that he is saying Avang Manasa Gocharam. That which cannot be objectified by the body, by the word and speech, because it is not an object. Yeah, that's true. It is the subject. No, it is not the subject either. It is the truth behind both the subject and object. It is the truth behind the subject and object. Subject and object are two poles. What is the truth behind the subject and object? That's Akhandam Sachidanandam. That he clarifies further by saying Atmanam is nothing non-different from myself. Atmanam. But Akhiladharam, that which sustains the whole universe. Atmanam Akhiladharam. That Akhandam Sachidanandam Avang Manasa Gocharam, which is nothing but Atmanam. And that sustains the whole universe. Therefore, Ishvara comes into the picture. And Jiveshwara Aikyam also comes into the picture. The obtaining identity between Jiva and Ishvara comes into the picture. Why you are saying Atmanam Akhiladharam? Akhila Srishtasya Adhara Bhutam. The substratum of the whole universe. That which supports the whole universe. What? Atmanam. Therefore, that infinite, limitless consciousness, which is the support of the whole universe, Ishvara, Atmanam cha, non-different from me. As consciousness, Ishvara and me are one and the same. All that is implied in the opening prayer. So, it's a prayer verse. At the same time is indicating all that's going to be dealt with in Vedanta. Because what is to be dealt in Vedanta? Atmanam Akhandam Sachidananda Surupam Vishwadharam. That's it. That's all that is dealt with. If you understand that, you understood all of Vedanta. If you don't understand that, whatever you study is not enough. No, Swamiji, I have studied Vedanta very well. The Panchikaranam I studied, the 5-element theory of creation. I looked at 5-element theory from Ayurveda also, all that from various dimensions I studied it. And then what is the conclusion? No, I know how to balance the Panchabhutas in my body. Very good. You will enjoy good health. So you are still functioning within Artha Kama. Yeah, I am teaching people also. I am showing people how they can balance out the Panchabhutas in their system and gain control over the Panchabhutas also. Very good. Excellent. Good health. और क्या? You have understood little of Vedanta. You have reduced Vedanta to an Artha Kama pursuit. There was a very popular teacher. Now he is not that, I don't hear about him that much. He was so popular, hugely popular. People would go and offer him land and this and that. He would say, no, please don't give me land. I have enough. I cannot spend time and effort in building an ashram there. No, but we want an ashram in our city where you can come and teach. I don't have time. 3-4 ashrams I already have. Can you imagine? That level of popularity he had. And people would make an ashram, whole thing set up and then give it to his trust. That level of popularity this man had. So one of my students would go to, the whole family was going to that lecture. So I said, how do you find it? She said, Swamiji is really spiritual materialism. I said, wow, that's a new term. Why do you say that? Because he was giving all these meditations, upasanas, etc. to gain more wealth, to gain more prosperity. So it becomes materialistic only. Na? Where is spirituality in it? I said, good. You are understanding things well now. Yeah. He's a good man, okay? He's a good person, very compassionate. The Mahatma I am talking about, I am deliberately not taking his name. He's a good man, very compassionate, nice person. Family man. Yeah. So it becomes like that only. He used to come to Bombay also very often. Nowadays I don't see him. I don't know what's happened. Okay. Or he might have decided enough is enough. These characters are only going to chase all these things and I am only adding to their artha kama, nothing more. Nobody wants moksha. You will forget it. So all this is not spirituality. Until you understand Akhandam, Akhiladharam, Sachidananda Swarupam, that is the subject matter of Vedanta. So an adhikari is that who wants that moksha. He may want some arthakama, dharmarthakama also because he has to live a life. That's okay, that's fine. You know, one way of being objective in your life would be, just imagine, what if you were rich? Yeah. What if you were rich? What would you do then that you can't do where you are right now? You'll find it very interesting. Because yesterday I was having a discussion with one of my kids. It's a young girl. She had all stars in her eyes when she was young, wanted to get married, rich, money, this, that, etc. Now she's about 40. So I was having a discussion. And she said, Swamiji, I'm done with all that. No? Why? Yeah, I used to go and eat in 5-star restaurants, this, that, etc. because I had the money to do it. But I find our local hotel gives better food. Yeah, local is giving better coffee, gives better food. So what's the point in going in Sahisar and spending that money? I mean, that ambience, etc. is there, but the food is better here. So if you want to eat good food, you don't want to cook and eat good food, do you really have to go to a 5-star? And anyway, the only way a rich man can live healthy is by living as though he's poor. Limited food, exercise, walk around. Yeah, if you're rich, you can drive in your Mercedes, go to the gym and walk on a treadmill. That's all the difference that's going to be there in your life. You can afford to go for a holiday abroad after the pandemic is over, not now. So, we are going towards Shahpur to look at some land for an ashram setup. So, there's someone with me who is driving me down there. So, he's looking at all the guns and says, he had just gone to Europe on a holiday and come back. He says, Swamiji, this place is as beautiful as Europe. I said, of course, nature is nature anywhere in the world. The buildings and all may not be, because they're a little bit small villages and things like that. But as far as nature is concerned, it's equally beautiful. Correct? That's true. Therefore, the idea is that, okay, yeah, money is good to have. What you can do with it. what you can do with it. Yeah. I have so many projects in my mind, $100 million can disappear overnight. In all the projects, yeah. Yeah, that's true, because money is for helping people. Money is for doing for things. After all, you're going to leave it here and go, no? After all, you're going to leave it here and go. That's why in Hindi there are some very beautiful statements, No, I will leave it for my child, so that my child doesn't have any need. I struggle to come up in life, That's very good. But the statement is very nice. Putta supata hai to kadana sanchaye. Putta kupata hai to kadana sanchaye. See, if your child is a good person, he has learned to be proactive, responsible, decision maker, etc., then what is the use of wealth? He will make it himself. And that will make a man out of him. And if your child is not like that, then that money will spoil him. He'll become more useless. He'll become a wastrel in life. So either way, kadana sanchay. It's an extreme viewpoint. It's an extreme viewpoint, but highlighting the limitation of dharmartha kama. That's all it is doing. It's only highlighting the limitation of dharmartha kama. I mean, if you have to be unhappy, you might as well be comfortably unhappy rather than uncomfortably unhappy. Yeah. Though if you are uncomfortable and unhappy, the discomfort will distract you from your unhappiness. But be comfortable, yeah. So, dharmartha kama has a limitation. So, moksha is the pursuit. Moksha is the pursuit. So, that's why even in the Shastras, the Veda, first portion, there are rituals, etc., given for getting wealth, this, that, etc. Nothing wrong in it. Nothing wrong in it. And what this Mahatma is talking about was converting some of them into upasanas and giving people. Works. Yeah. Don't ask me for all that, okay? Unless you're struggling, then I'll give you some things, okay? Yeah. My main thing is moksha. Yeah. Okay. Then what is this? Akhiladharam Ashraye. I take refuge in, he says. That Akhandam Ishwaram, I take refuge in Ashraye for what? Abhishta Siddhaye. For accomplishment of what I want. And what is it that I want to do right now? I am writing this book called Vedanta Sara. May it reach the people and bless them. What is my purpose for writing it? Not to publish and be known as an author. Not to publish and known as an author. But so that it will reach the people and bless them. They have all of Vedanta in one volume. They have. It's a small book. Can you see that? You all have the books in your hands. It's a small book. Some 157 verses or something, right? So, a small book. I still have to find the book, the copy of the book that you all are using, okay? It's somewhere lost in my cupboard. It's rare for things to be lost in my cupboard. I usually find them. I just have to put my hand and I'll find them. But this book is lost, okay? Or maybe somebody borrowed it and has not come back. That's a possibility. Yeah. But since I have other copies, I am using this book. Okay. Therefore, Akhandam Sachida. Yeah, Kamini, what is it that you wanted?
No, I just want to say if you can't find your copy, I have an extra one.
Yeah, but how will you reach it to me? Courier it, okay. Okay. Yeah. I'll let you know if I can't find it by tomorrow or so. I'll let you know. Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
Okay. All right. Okay. Therefore, Akhandam Sachidana Ashraye Abhishta Siddhaye. Okay. Okay. And there's a lot of Sanskrit on it. Okay. Then, after having saluted the Ishvara, he is saluting his Guru. Okay. Because remember in this book we saw, what is that? Dakshinamurti Stotram, and with Manasollasa commentary we saw that. For whom Yatha Devo Parabhaktihi, who has Parabhakti for the Ishvara, Yatha Devo Tatha Guru, like how he has for the same devotion to the Guru also. Tasya Mahatmana, for that Mahatman, who? The student, Mahatman. Katita Artaha Prakashante, all this meaning will come alive for that person. Therefore, keeping that in mind, he is saluting his teacher also in the second verse. His teacher's name was Advayananda. Sadananda was the Sishya of Advayananda. Therefore, he is saluting now. Arthatopi Advayanandan Atin Dvaita Manataha Gurunaradhya Vedanta Saryam Vakshe Yatha Matihi. Arthatopi Advayananda. His name was Advayananda. Arthataha api. In reality, he was Advayananda, he says. It was not just a name given. Yeah. Like I seen some of sadhus' names are great names, but the character is nothing like that. Yeah. Okay. Since none of you will ever meet this guy, I can talk about him. There is one sadhu named, I knew, called Jnanananda. Good name, Jnanam Anandam, yes. Ananda of Jnanam. He was recognized that he is nothing but Ananda. But he was nothing like that in life. He was chasing politics, forming committees, this, that, etc. Very bureaucratic in his approach to life. Therefore, this case he says, no, my Guru Arthatopi Advayananda. Why? Atita Dvaita Bhanataha. He had recognized the source of the consciousness which is beyond all duality. Arthata api Advayananda. In reality, he was Advayananda. Why? Because he had gone beyond all duality. He had recognized Aham Satyam. Dvaita Pratiti is not against Advaita Siddhi. Perception of duality is not against the reality of Advaita. He knew that very clearly. A million waves, one water. Like as sailors will say, those who have been sailing for some time, oh, I have sailed the 7 seas. I sailed all over. One water. Atita Dvaita Bhanataha. 14 dimensions, one consciousness. Therefore, Arthatopi Advayanandan Atita Dvaita Bhanataha Gurun Aradhya, such a Guru, Aradhya, worshipping, saluting, okay, paying homage to. Okay. Saram Vakshe, Vedanta Saram Aham Vakshe. The essence of Vedanta I am going to talk about. Yatha Matihi, as much as I know. There is a humility in him. Okay. He's a great writer. Sadananda was not an ordinary person. Okay. But Yatha Matihi, I will talk. I will present Vedanta Saram as I think, as I know. And he's done a fantastic job.
What is the meaning of Vakshe here?
Beg your pardon?
Vakshe? The meaning of Vakshe?
Vakshe. I am going to speak.
Vakshe. Vakshe?
Yeah, vakshe. Atmana prayoga. Aham vakshe, like, yeah. You are normally used to, what do you call, parasmaya pada, right? Aham vakshyami, bhavishyami, etc. This is Atmane pada. Aham vakshe. Okay. 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 All right. Then, all right, Vedanta Saram Vakshe. Then you have to say, what is Vedanta? Look at the logical steps he is taking. Tradition first, saluting the Ishvara. In there, revealing what the whole thing is about. Then saluting the Guru, next step. Okay. That's why even today, really speaking, when you are doing an elaborate puja, what do? Now, puja is worship of the Lord itself. No? This is a month where in South India, you will always do Devi puja at this time. Correct? Those are South Indians here, traditional. Like Sundar and all, you know that. Sundar, Swarna and all will know. Karkata Masaha. Therefore, you will do Bhagavati Seva. Devi Puja in the evening. Devi Puja is generally, if it's only Devi Puja, you will do it in the evening. How will you start? By invoking? Straight away worship Devi? Not if you are traditional. First you will invoke Ganesha, Vignaharta. Even for a puja there can be Vignas, no? So first you will invoke Ganesha. Sometimes those who are in Bombay or even those who are not in Bombay and you come to Bombay, I must take you all to this place to show you all some traditional pujas, okay? You have been introduced to simple pujas through Rashmi. That's something that you can do at home. Some of you are South Indians know it anyway, so not a problem. Others, you should come with me and I'll take you all to show these things. So you'll invoke Ganesha first. Then you will invoke your Guru. Whoever is a priest will invoke his Guru. Then he will worship the main deity there, whoever is invoked. So here also is following the tradition. First Ishvara. Since Ishvara is invoked, Ganesha is also invoked there. And then the Guru is invoked. Now he has to get into the subject matter, say what is Vedanta. He has to define it. Therefore he does that in the next one. Vedanto nama Upanishad pramanam tad upakarani sharirak sutradini. One of the most beautiful definitions of Vedanta. Vedanto nama Upanishad pramanam. You can take a whole class only on this 1/4 of a line. Okay. Vedanto Nama. Upanishad. Upanishad called as Vedanta is the Pramanam, he says. So Vedanta is a positional name given to the Upanishads. And as we have seen in Brahma Sutra, that I will remind you all of, that positional name becomes very important. What is the position? The end, Antaha, end of the Veda. This is the meaning. Any other meaning that you are giving is Kapola Kalpitam. Maybe okay, but imagined. Why is this name end of the Vedas important? Because we split the Vedas into two sections. Purva and Uttara Bhaga. Therefore, you have to establish Vedanta as a separate prakarnam. Why? The first Prakaranam deals with Dharmartha Kama. First Prakaranam deals with Dharmartha Kama. Dharma here and hereafter. Dharma includes that. You remember Swami Omkaranandji's lecture at the last Vedic Wisdom Festival? About what is Dharma. If you all don't remember, go to our website Vedic Wisdom Festival.in and listen to it again. It includes what is there after life also. Anything that any action done for afterlife comes under Dharma. And Artha and Kama also. Artha and Kama you can take care of it yourself. No? You want money, you want a house, you want a child, you want to get married. These are all Artha Kama. Yes. But if your actions are not enough, you can enhance those actions by doing Vedic karma also. Sometimes people come to me, Swamiji, I want to get married. Good, get married, no? Achha hi hai. I have one more house to go and say Bhagavati Bhiksham De. I'm very happy. But I'm not finding anyone. What does the horoscope say? Do you have fate to get married? Because that also has to be said. Because some people don't have that fate. Now what to do? Yeah, that is there. All right. Then I'll give you the Swayamvara mantra. Chalo, chant. It's a Vedic mantra. Sometimes that is enough. Because horoscope fate is positive. No? Only some little blockages are there here and there. Chalo, chant. May not be enough. Okay. During Navaratri time, etc., Shankara Matam has that Homa. Swayamvara Parvati home, they have participate in that Homa. So there is a Homa available. Height of it. Or you can get that Homa done for yourself. For what? For a Kama. Just Kama, no? Yeah. Where do you get all this from? From the Veda. Nothing wrong. Nothing wrong. Therefore, the first portion deals with Dharma, Artha, Kama. Afterlife. What do you want to be after death? Practical. Since we don't talk about only one lifetime. No. We don't talk about an eternal heaven or an eternal hell. Why? You go there because of your karma. And your karma is finite. Therefore, your residence there also will be finite. That's logical. Religion cannot make illogical statements. Yeah, the book are beyond logic. I accept that. Whether it is the Veda or any other book, it's beyond logic, I will accept. But if it is making illogical statements, that is not beyond logic. That is within logic. That's within logic. Like I heard a mullah speak on YouTube. Sometimes I also channel surf and see these things. So a student is asking, says, Vigyan कहते हैं, science is saying that the earth is rotating. If earth is rotating, the position of Mecca also keeps changing. How is heaven always on top of Mecca? Simple, he could have answered by saying even the Mecca is also, heaven is also rotating along, no? Everything is rotating. Simple. But this guy is so stuck, so ignorant idiot, that what you learn from science is not true. What the Quran says, earth doesn't rotate. Because only then Mecca can be stationary over, heaven can be stationary over Mecca. That the earth rotates is scientifically proved, logically proved. visually proved. Therefore, if you are making a statement like this, is illogical. This is not religion. Religion cannot claim to be beyond logic in such a case. Because it's not beyond logic. What you are saying is within logic. Why do you say within logic? Because highly illogical. Logical and illogical statements are both within logic. Therefore, the Upanishad will say, the Veda will say certain things to enhance your life after death also. Because whatever happens to you after death is based on your punya papa, your karma, the good and the bad that you have done. Yeah. Therefore, good in terms of two types of things the Veda will talk about. Ishti and Purti. Ishti is pure worship. From simple japa onwards to yagadi, all that is called Ishti. It will talk also of Purti. Purti is all your social, developmental work. All the karmas that you do to help the society, to help people. Sometimes think this small, like taking care of your maid's son's education, to building a road. Previously, private people would do this, as part of their seva, build a road. Build rest houses for travelers. Build water bodies. It's all good for Chitta Shuddhi. I did some of these things before I came to Vedanta, even after I came to Vedanta. Especially water management, etc. Yeah, in school. As a schoolboy, I used to do all this. Good. Because act of reaching out. There I thought people are suffering, Baba, what can I do to help them? It was not the idea of going to heaven, etc. As a schoolboy, I didn't believe in all that heaven hell business. So, that apart. Purti. Ishti and Purti. Every human being is supposed to do that. Why? You reach out and help people who needs a helping hand. Nobody is too big that they don't require a helping hand. Nobody is too small that they cannot give a helping hand. There's a folk story about this. It's not in Valmiki, but there's a folk story about this in Ramayana. Ramayana, all the mighty warriors, Vanaras, were building the bridge under Nala's supervision. Boulders were coming down into this thing. That somebody said after that, they also wrote Ram on the thing and extended. That's all story, okay? Boulders were dropped into the ocean. And there is a small squirrel. It's a folk tale, okay? It is not there in Valmiki. How will I help Rama? I also want to do something. So the rocks have to be held in place. No? What will hold it in place? Some sand going into it. No? So the squirrel went and dipped itself in the sea, came and rolled itself on the sand on the shore, and then went back and would wash itself again where these gaps were there between stones, so that the sand will fill it up. It's a folk tale, okay? It can't work like that. Don't tell me, according to the principles of engineering, it is not possible. I know that well. Okay. It's a folk story to indicate that, Arthavada it is, to indicate that nobody is too small that he can't contribute to something. Nobody is too big that he doesn't require help. I'm sure even Bill Gates will require some counseling now. His marriage of 34 years has gone. His wealth is split and things like that. He also will be upset. Yeah. The splitting of wealth won't mean much to him because he has got enough. But who knows, it may mean something also. 1/3 of your wealth going means something. However rich you are. And a marriage broken up, etc. Some sorrow, etc. will be there. There was some counseling, etc. Anyone requires that. Money can't get you over sorrow. Yeah. So, Ishti and Purti. Purti is all these acts of helping people in Ishti. These both talked about dharma. And takes care of Arthakama. Dharma for afterlife, Ishti Purti will take care of it. And dharma for present life also. Now money etc. you can gain by your action. But to enhance it. See, when you are asking for worldly goals, your Vedic karma alone is not enough. Vedic karma is meant to enhance your worldly karma. You remember my old story, no? Of how this guy was praying for wealth, for money. You all remember that story? Kya bhul gaya? Okay, here was this guy who was going and praying sincerely to the Lord. Oh Lord, I am a poor man, but I am a good man. With whatever little I have helped, I helped people. But my family is suffering. This month's lottery ticket, may I win the lottery. A month, lottery came and went, he didn't win it. Second month, same prayer. Third month, same prayer. Nothing's happening. Fourth month, oh Lord, this is Diwali bumper. Please give me a break. And suddenly a voice was heard. Idiot, give me a break. At least go and buy that lottery ticket. Minimum activity, okay? Minimum activity. You prayed for wealth. Then what are you doing sitting at home? How do you get that wealth? Until some uncle or auntie dies and leaves you the property. So you're praying for their death or what? Give it a chance, na? Do something. Do something. Take up a job, start a business, do some entrepreneurship, something for that wealth to work through. So Artha and Kama is fulfilled like that. I am doing the Swayamvara mantra. I did the Homa also. I am doing the Swayamvara mantra chanting every day. Then what happens? Is anybody looking for a groom for you? Or a girl for you? No. I don't trust any of these guys. And are you on a matrimonial site or something? No. And kahan se tapkega? No relative or friend is looking for somebody. You're not on a matrimonial site. From where will God send you somebody? Because even if God sends you somebody, you may not recognize that. Because you don't trust anybody. But if you trust, if your relatives are looking out, then you'll get somebody and you'll be happy with the person. Meaning as happy as you can be in a marriage. Okay. Therefore, Artha Kama, it is meant to enhance. Okay. It's meant to enhance what you are, not more. Okay. Dharma Artha Kama. This is the first portion of the Veda. First portion of the Veda deals with all this. Separate Prakarnam. Why? Because the last portion of the Veda deals only with moksha. So since it's a separate Prakarnam, it cannot be kept in between Dharma Artha. Na? Between Dharma Artha, Kama, I'll put in Vedanta there. Because then you don't know what it's talking about. How do you know? If it's a separate subject matter, it's almost like a separate book. It's almost like a separate book by itself. In fact, it is a separate. That's why you call Bhinna Prakarnam separate Prakarna. Therefore, it has to be kept separate. But to keep it separate, you kept it as Antaha, the end chapters of the Veda is Vedanta, is the Upanishads. Every Veda, Upanishads come to the end. So that position is important. Otherwise, how do you know? Supposing the Upanishads were put into, we saw this in Brahma Sutras. Supposing the Upanishads were put inside Dharma Artha Kama, it's all mixed up. Now, when you're dealing with Dharma Artha Kama, a ritual is mentioned, a meditation is mentioned to enhance the result of the karma. So, how do you know the Upanishad is also like that? It is praising Atmanam, Upasita, Satya Jnanam Anandamiti. How do you know it's not a meditation? Remember in Brahma Sutras, Tattva Samanvaya, there was that Purvapaksha, that all Upanishads are nothing but meditation to enhance karma. And Jnana Karma Samuchaya was talked about, which was negated by Shankara. People don't remember, go and hear that Brahma Sutra again. It will come up on the website. Website will be up in a couple of weeks. All the Brahma Sutra tapes will be on there. Listen to that. Only audio, not video, okay? Because that time we are not doing video recording, we are doing only audio recording. Therefore, that is there. Bhinna Prakaranam, separate section. Therefore, Vedanta, positional name for the Upanishad. And the Upanishad is the Pramanam Atma for moksha. If you want to gain moksha, the Jnanam revealed in the Upanishad is what it is meant for. Therefore, the Upanishad becomes a Pramanam, because how are you going to know yourself? Avang Manasa Gocharam. How are you going to know that? Paranchikani Vyatarnak Swayambhu Paran Pashyati Nantaratma. It looks like the Lord has finished me off. Why? Because all my sense organs are outside. All my pramanas are meant for knowing things other than me. Perception to know things, names and forms, colors, forms. Based on that data, I make inference. Inference is a second pramana. Upamana, comparative studies. Arthapatti, deductive logic. All that we have seen elaborately. In the camps, everything we have seen all this. Arthapatti, deductive logic. More than one step of logic is involved. Anupalabdhi, to know things that don't exist. So with all that, we come to know the truth. We come to know everything other than me. By the 5 pramanas at my disposal, therefore, for knowing myself, I need a 6th pramana. In fact, for knowing what I can't figure out with my 5 pramanas, I need the 6th pramana called Shabda. Shabda covers the whole Veda. In that one section is Atma Jnanam. Therefore, to know myself, Upanishadeva Pramanam. That's why the Atma is also called Aupanishadam Purushaha. The Purusha that is revealed in the Upanishad. Aupanishadam. Adi Vriddhi takes place. Aupanishadam Purusha. Therefore, that's how I know. Okay. The Vedanta is known through the Upanishad. The Pramana, because that's the Pramana. Because I am not a subject matter for perception, nor is there any perception made data available to know myself. Everything, we take workshops, corporate workshops for self-awareness, etc. That self-awareness is here, mind and body. Your talents, your strengths, your weaknesses, etc. We will use tools also. SWOT analysis, Johari window, all that thing. All that is only meant for knowing body and mind, nothing more than that. Good tools for that. Yeah. Good tools. That self-awareness is only that much. Mind and body, talents, skills, knowledge, ignorance, fears, worries, distortions in thinking. So, which is good. To do all that is good because that develops your adhikaritvam. So that's a good thing to do. But to know the I that objectifies all this, because I am self-ignorant, I don't know who I am, what I am. Any answer to the question who I am will be from a standpoint other than me, or maximum with the standpoint of body and mind. That's all it will be. Or my knowledge or skills. Yeah. Therefore, the I that's aware of the whole thing, what is that? Up to I awareness, I can come with my own logic. But that this awareness is limitlessness, because without that there is no moksha. Without understanding your limitless nature, there is no moksha. Your still finitude will continue. Finitude will continue, there is no moksha. Therefore, that pramanam is the Upanishad, and that pramanam is helped by, he says, tad upakarani. Upakarani means what helps them. Sharirika sutradini, to help you understand the pramana. There is an analysis of the pramana called Sharirika Sutras or Brahma Sutras. The first 4 sutras, the first chapter we saw. Okay? The Brahma Sutras is an analysis of the whole Upanishad to make you understand it clearly, because it is in the form of words. If it is in the form of words, you have to understand the tatparya, the intention. That will require certain logical analysis, because there will be statements which seems to contradict each other, because you are talking from different standpoints. Therefore, to understand the big picture, you need an analysis. That analysis is the Brahma Sutras. And Tadupakarni, even granthas like this, Adi Padat. Adi means and, so on and so forth. He started with Brahma Sutra, the highest available. Books like this also, Vedanta Sara, helps you understand what the Upanishad is saying. Therefore, Vedanta is not a theory. Vedanta is not a philosophy. Vedanta is not the speculative conclusion of the rishis. Vedanta is a pramana, a means of knowledge. And it has to be treated like that if you want to know moksha. If you want to study it as philosophy, you can go to a college and do that. You can go to a college and do that. It will give it to you. But it won't give you moksha. I remember one of the students here, she is not there today, Devyani. She did her MA in philosophy, then went to a teacher and asked, I would like to do a doctorate. And the teacher turned around and asked, why do you want a doctorate? Because I want to know the truth. Doctorate will not give it to you. The teacher, academic professor, teaching 30 years, was very honest there. He said, a doctorate will not give you the truth. So then what do? I've been studying all this. Find a teacher. That's how she came and started coming to the class and things like that. Because how do you find a teacher? How do you go guru hunting? Nowadays, simple. You will go on the net. Oh, that person sounds nice, this person sounds nice. But there are many popular speakers who may not necessarily deliver the goods. It's very difficult to be popular and authentic at the same time. Very difficult. Yeah. So she started attending all sorts of workshops that deals anything about spiritual. She started attending, and she stumbled upon me. And she's sitting in the workshop, and I'm thinking, what is a secret sorrow? Honestly, this is a thought that came into my mind. What is a secret sorrow? Okay, it's a different thing after that. Okay. So, if you want to know the truth, academic study will not deliver it. Some sort of scholarship you will have. But modern academic studies, even scholarship is poor. Scholarship is poor. Traditional Sanskrit studies in Sanskrit colleges give you a better degree of scholarship. Because just because you are studying in Sanskrit doesn't mean it is traditional. I have seen a lot of academic professors in Sanskrit. They are called Panditas. I went for a conference and I heard a lot of these people speaking in Sanskrit. Very good Sanskrit. Much better than what I can speak in Sanskrit. Very good. Excellent speakers. Scholarly. But you can make out very clearly they don't know the truth. Very clear it becomes. The way they present some things, you can make out that. Therefore, non-academic traditional studies, only that will deliver the goods. Yeah. And if the teacher happens to be both traditional and contemporary, you are lucky. Why? You will use modern examples. It's easy for you to understand. Otherwise, you have to be able to have his knowledge and relate to him. Like when I was studying from Taranandagiri, a traditional person. He had left home after school and never gone back. So he didn't have understanding of modern science, this, that, etc. So the examples will all be from nature, from Puranas and things like that. And you have to be able to relate to that. Yeah. Which is fine. Yeah, which is fine. It's for you to go to a guru and understand, no? Not for the guru to make it down to your level. Yeah. Therefore, tadupakarani, whatever is this thing, for that, okay. Namakshe. Then I don't think you need me to explain what the Upanishads are, etc. This book does all that thing. Look at what Ballantyne, this Colonel Jacob is writing. The Upanishads are speculative texts of varying length appended to the 4 Vedas. Just now you are talking Vedanta is a Upanishad is a pramana, and then you are saying it is a speculative text. How do you expect the colonel to understand anything? Yeah. I wonder whether the colonel was a good colonel also. Why? His communication is poor. British officers were sometimes poor in their communication. The whole charge of the Light Brigade is based on miscommunication. They charge the wrong guns. Yeah. Persian battle, they charge the wrong guns. Yeah. The whole, it is made into a heroic poem by Tennyson, The Charge of the Light Brigade. It's a great poem. I loved the poem as a kid. Half a league, half a league, half a league onwards. Into the valley of death rode the 600. Cannons to the right of them, cannons to the left of them, cannons in front of them. Into the valley of death rode the 600. There is not to ask, to reason why, there is not to question why, there is but to do and die. Great spirit. But the whole bloody thing was a miscommunication. Luckily, the officer died in that battle. If he had not died, he would have been court-martialed and dismissed from service. Yeah. Miscommunication. So I wonder how good a colonel also he would have made. Yeah. See, whenever I make a statement, I'll back it up with some logic, okay? History proves the lack of communication. In fact, the statement in the British Army is, it's an army of lions led by donkeys. Speak to the old timers in the British Army. I know them. They will say this. Anyway, all the jokes apart, therefore, Upanishad Pramanam. This Pramanam and whatever is said in that Pramanam, Tasya Saram, the essence of that is going to be presented in this book. Okay, so with that, next class onwards, we will go into the what is being presented, etc. Good place to stop. Om Tat Sat.